What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Finance King, and we back again with another late night session of assets under management. Now, we are on a precipice of a government shutdown, and that's exactly what this podcast or this episode is going to be about. What's a government shutdown exactly? How does it happen? And who and what is affected or impacted by a government shutdown? So stay tuned. We're going to get right into it. It's Finance King. You're watching Assets Under Management. All right, y'all. I need y'all to bear with me. I got allergies right now. My nose is stuffy, but it is September 29th and September 30th, which is Saturday. Tomorrow is the last day for Congress to get this budget under control and get it approved, or we will have a government shutdown starting on October 1st. So I had no time to wait, no time to delay, and I had to get this to you. So pardon, if you can hear all of my nasal, the congestion and everything, pardon that for me. I'm here, I'm dedicated, and I'm getting you this information. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So, like I said, a government shutdown is when the government is closed, the business of the government is closed on a federal level due to an incomplete budget. So every fiscal year, the new fiscal year starts on October 1st. So they have up until September 30th to submit the budget for the new fiscal year. Uh, as it stands, this budget has not been submitted and it is completed by Congress. So both the Republicans and the Democrats have to come together and agree on a budget on where to put the money in about 12 different sectors or 12 different sections in the United States, and say, okay, we're going to allocate this much here, this much there. We're not going to allocate any here, so on and so forth. And because of that, there is going to be a lot of argument, a lot of agreement, a lot of disagreement. And so it usually takes a while for Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, to come on board and agree on one thing. As it is, we see that all the time, right? So imagine when we're talking about money, how much more of a stress that puts on the conversation. And so, again, they have typically until September 30th. But as you see, there are different types of shutdowns, and we'll get there later. So, as I mentioned, the 12 sections of the budget, the main sections of the budget, are as follows. So, first we have agriculture, then we have commerce, justice, and science as it all being one section. Also, we have defense. Defense is the biggest part of the budget. Energy and water, financial services, general services, homeland security, which is pretty important, uh, interior and environment, labor, health, human services, and education, military construction and veteran affairs, state and foreign operations, transportation, housing, and urban development, also known as HUD. If you're unfamiliar with some of these sections, I'm pretty sure and throughout your daily life, you've recognized some of these sections. For example, Department of Defense, that's where that comes from. Um, Homeland, which is Homeland Security. We're talking about the wall, the Mexico-U.S. border wall, and immigration and different things of that nature. Of course, Veteran Affairs deals with all of our military vets, and HUD, Urban Development, often deals with real estate. I want to say uh, the construction of real estate, zoning, and different type of grants that you can get when it comes to building in urban communities. So now that we know what a budget is, now that we know, what the budget covers, when it's supposed to be rolled out, who votes on it, and who puts it together. Now let's talk about who's affected, right? How is the everyday American like myself, like you, and so many others? How are we affected on a day-to-day basis when we come down to our level and just living life, right? How does that work? So we're going to start by going over some areas that the government just is not existent in the shutdown, right? They're shut down. So we're going to talk about that. And so let's get into that when we talk about passport services. There will be no passports approved or created during a government shutdown. So if you plan on going on a trip, I advise you in the future, because it's too late now, I advise you to get your passport early, right? Don't wait if you know that there's going to be if your trip is around the time of the new fiscal year, because there is a potential that there could be a government shutdown that would delay the process of your passports and other government documents, right? Taxes and refunds, taxes, refunds, and the IRS. So, if, for example, for some reason you're still trying to get a refund around this time, that could have implications. The government shutdown could have implications on the the handing out of your tax refund. The IRS is partly shut down. A lot of the people or employees could be furloughed or temporarily laid off. So the collections of taxes and different things like that will slow, but there is still ongoing production from the IRS. It's just that it's not as prevalent as it is without a government shutdown or when the government is in full force. National parks, museums, and different federal buildings will be closed. So, for example, President Jimmy Carter was expected to have his birthday in one of these federal libraries in Washington, D.C. However, he had to move his birthday, well, not his birthday, but he had to move the birthday party up a day, because if the federal if the government did not agree upon his budget and we did go into a shutdown, he would not be allowed to have his birthday in this federal library. So these are some of the things. Museums as well. I know we all like going on those nice midday dates and seeing and learning different things, but museums will be closed. I'm close to DC, and it has a lot of museums. And so that's one of the things that a lot of people here like to do is go into these museums. And the Smithsonian actually just opened a new museum, but we won't be able to get to see it if the government shuts down for a while. So that's another thing. A lot of people like to go to national parks. They will be shut down. So there's no camping. There's no, no hiking trails, none of that, because there is nobody to work these jobs, as everyone will be furloughed. The Federal Housing Administration. Now, I'm not sure if the entire department will be shut down, but I know that some of the department will be furloughed. And with that being furloughed, that means production will be slowed. So if you're in the process of getting a new home and you're banking on an FHA loan, you potentially, potentially will have your loan be delayed, because there is just not enough manpower to process these loans. And so that is something to consider when you're talking about government shutdowns around this time. And that goes the same for SBA, Small Business Administration, SBA loans. If you are looking to start a business or expand your business through SBA and we go through a government shutdown, expect some delays, right? Expect some delays with your loans, because these things, we just don't, there is just not the manpower as everyone else is furloughed. And I'm going to keep driving that home, because that's pretty much what's happening during the government shutdown, right? Like I said, I'm close to DC, so a lot of these things, I'm not going to say we experience often, but we see when a government is shut down, or we do have major events like this, political events, the metropolitan area often see the effects of it. And so for me, it's very noticeable. And for you who may be on the other side of the country who may not feel such an impact, I'm letting you know that these are some of the things to look out for. And so when it comes to small businesses trying to get grants and different things like that, around the area, or a lot of the metropolitan area are government workers. So for me, there's a lot less traffic, but there are a lot more people who may be in restaurants or grocery stores or different places because no one's at work, or very few people are at work. And so these are just some of the things that I look for or deal with on a day-to-day basis. But this is assets under management, so I want to keep it uh, less political and more finance. So let's talk about how a government shutdown can affect the markets, can affect the stock markets, can affect the Federal Reserve, and how does that play on someone who's a trader or hedge funds or um, retail traders just trying to, increase their retirement or whatever the case may be. So let's get into that. So the first thing that we have to understand is that when there's a government shutdown, the um, the departments that gather information like the census, CPI, GDP, and all of that, those are closed. So we will not have any access or any current, even though it's a lagging indicator, but we will not have any economic data come out. So for CPI, which is very important right now because that's what the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell are basing their rate hikes or pauses on, the CPI data. If the government shuts down, there will be no CPI. So they will basically be flying this ship with blindfolds on, trying to land this plane. And that's not something that's good. So I don't think that we will see an extended government shutdown just because of the time that we're in. When you talk about Ukraine and us, helping fund their war, and the rate high situations, and on the border and a precipice of a recession, uh, we can not really afford a government shutdown right now. And I think both sides understand that. I don't want to get into politics, but I do think that both sides understand that. And whether it takes, a couple days or whether it takes a few weeks, I do think that everyone sees a government shutdown at this time as not something that we want to happen, especially the Federal Reserve, because they need the CPI data, they need the GDP data, they need the PPI data, which is producer price index. They need consumer confidence. They need consumer sentiment data, right? They need all of this data to understand what to do next month. As you know, or as you may not know, Jerome Powell did state that he was going to hike one more time this year. So if it's October now and we're in the fourth quarter and we're going through a government shutdown, you could probably almost bet that we will get a rate hike, because it's better to be safe than sorry, right? And we don't know what the data will entail. Based off of the last couple months, inflation has been going back up. So if you see that and you notice that based off the last couple months, oil prices aren't going down, housing, it just tipped over and started going down. If you put all of that into context and then say, hey, I don't know what the latest data is, based off of the averages and based off of the statistics and the previous data, you can make a conclusion that, okay, I'm going to assume that the data is going up, right? I'm going to assume that it did not get into a better place. So let's rate hike. Let's just hike up 0.25 basis points, right? And so that's something that they don't want to do. Now they do have private data, like Jerome Powell can rely on ADP, which is a lot of you guys paychecks, create the paychecks, and the paycheck services for your job and everything like that. So, he can use data like that, but that's not the primary data. And so, with all that being said, we definitely don't want to see a long government shutdown because we won't get access to that data. And even us, traders or people who are trying to grow our money, we need that data as well in order to make certain decisions, make certain financial decisions in the market. So let's move on. Uh, and because of that, right? Because of not having that data, because of not having any confidence in what the market would do or any assurity and what the market would do, how the Fed will react, there will be more volatile markets, right? We probably will see the VIX as it did this previous week or this current week. Today is Friday, so this week that is ending, as we did see the VIX spike up to 18 when it was recently down to 13 about last week or 2 weeks ago. Um, Maybe that is because the market is bracing for a government shutdown and we don't know what that will bring. And so when we get more volatility in the market, we tend to see more. I'm not going to say volatility equals bearishness, but volatility equals a wider range in trading. So where the average trading day may have been a $4 to $6 range, um, maybe with the government shutdown, it may go to, you know, 6 to 8, 6 to 9, or something like that. And that's not something that is ultimately healthy for us traders. If you can catch the move, then great. However, you know, we would like to see certainty. We would like to see either a balanced market or or either buyers in control or sellers in control. We don't like to see buyers in control or sellers in control or buyers sellers. You know, we don't want to see that. And so that's what basically will happen with the government shutdown. So I wanted to do a deeper dive into what happened on the last 10 government shutdowns. I want to back test, see if I can come up with, you know, some type of strategy for trading or anything like that. And I haven't gotten to do it yet, but I did skim over some data, and I don't want to put it out there and give a half-assed back test or anything like that. So I'm going to hold that, and I'm still going to do it, you know, even though we're a day away. I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to upload it. It may be during a government shutdown, or even if we don't shut down, I'm still going to upload it maybe for the next time. And so when I upload it, I will reference this episode and we will talk about it. But let's go over about the last 10 government shutdowns, right? I want to provide the dates, and I want to provide just about how long it was so you can get an idea of what we could be in for, right? And so I think that's important as well, knowing where we're coming, well, what we're going into. You know, you always want to get an idea of, okay, well, how long could this last? Because people have to plan for these things. Like seniors or seniors and people on Medicaid, people getting Social Security checks, they will still get their checks as long, you know, because the budget is already allotted. But if it lasts for an extended amount of time, that could be under pressure. People who are on food stamps, WIC, all types of um, aid, federal aid in that manner, you know, they will be able to get their payments. But if there's some added longevity to this government shutdown, you know, all those things could be under pressure, which drastically affects how someone lives on a day-to-day basis, right? If someone is counting on extra 300, 500, $800 in their household for food and they're not getting that, that drastically puts a strain on the earned income that's coming in for someone. So I want you to get an understanding of typically how long this lasts, right? So let's get into it. So the last government shutdown was in 2018, from January 1st, from January 19th to January 22nd, which was about 3 days. Before that, there was one that was December 22nd, 2018 to January 25th, 2019. This was a partial shutdown. So the shutdown that happened from the 19th to the 22nd of 2018 was a full shutdown, right? So this one was a partial shutdown. It was the longest shutdown in history, about 35 days. And so the one before that, and this is going from most recent to not to the latest, right, in the 70s or whatever. So let's get into it from January 20th to January 22nd, 2019, 2013, from October 7th to October 17th in 2013. So 10 days. 1995, December 9th to December 13th. That is 4 days. November 14th to November 19th, 1995, 5 days. October 10th to October 6th, 1990, 5 days, or 6 days if you want to count one of those days actually being, um, apart. September 30th to October 6th, 1982. September 30th to October 3rd, 1980. September 30th to October 12th, 1979. September 20th to October 13th, 1977, right? So you do have some that are about 1 day. You do have some that are a couple days. You do have some that are about a month. You do have some that are, like 10 days or whatever. But the average of these last 10 shutdowns are about 10 days, right? And so going into tomorrow, if we get a decision whether we having a shutdown or not, I am going to game plan for about 2 weeks of government shutdown, and what that means for me and my family. How am I going to trade the markets during these 2 weeks? I'm going to have extra care. I'm probably going to put on a little less risk. I'm probably going to take less trades. I'm going to look for super A1 setups. Make sure I got my levels. Maybe I'll sit out the first day and see how the market respect these levels. I'll watch the VIX and I'll watch the bond yields, because bond yields and the dollar have been skyrocketing, and so I want to see how that is affected based off of a government shutdown. Maybe it's already priced in, based off of the back testing that I'm going to do. Maybe I'll find out that government shutdowns are already priced in prior to. And then when we do get a government shutdown, maybe we see a run. One thing I do know is that from the small bit of data that I've seen, there are runs that could happen after the government open backs up. But I'll get back to that best. I'll get to that back testing, and then I'll put out a video on that. But this is Finance King, man. I'll see y'all on the other side, and I appreciate y'all for being here. If you stuck around this long, give me a like and subscribe. This will help the channel. This will help my confidence. This will help the actual show, right? And so, all that being said, man, you're watching Assets Under Management. I'll see you on the other side.